Hello and thank you for joining me. Today I'm taking a look at Felton Road's Bannockburn Riesling, and this is the 2019 vintage of that. Felton Road from central Otago, particularly the Bannockburn sub-region, and this particular wine comes from two blocks within the Elms Vineyard, which was the original planting back in the early 1990s, of vineyards around the winery. They have four different vineyard blocks, but this was the original one on Felton Road. So yes, this comes from block 2 and block 4, and the ethos of Felton Road ever since they've been established has been to grow and produce wines both organically and biodynamically. They're certified for both of those by BioGrow and Demeter respectively, and to make wine in the vineyard as meticulously as possible to enhance fruit maturity, but then once they've done that, to do everything in the winery to be as hands-off as possible, to make sure that those beautiful flavours make their way through into the final wine without being diminished by the winemaking in any way. So as far as this wine is concerned, you've got the vineyard has very typical angular schistous gravel soil, which is fairly standard in Bannockburn, with a very thin covering of wind-blown loess over the top, just to provide some soil. So it's very free draining. Is naturally quite low yielding soils. I mean, I guess schistous soils are famously found in the Moselle in Germany. It's that sort of style that suits high quality Riesling. This particular wine is, vineyard management first of all. They'll do everything. The vines are vertically shoot positioned, but they'll shoot thin, they'll shoot position, they'll leaf pluck, they'll bunch thin, just to make sure that the fruit they pick is all of the best maturity when it's harvested. Harvesting's done by hand. This particular batch was first of all was whole bunch fermented, whole bunch pressed, sorry, just to get really clear juice, and then that juice was left to settle for 10 days and racked off any lees that fell there. So very pure juice, fermenting with its own indigenous yeasts, and doing so at quite cool temperature, and so doing so quite slowly. And then once it reached a stage where the acid and the sugar and alcohol were all in balance, that fermentation was stopped by chilling the wine. The winery is very much set up for small batch production. Everything is gravity fed, so really meticulous, but without too much intervention if possible. The fermentation was stopped, leaving about 50 grams of sugar in this. So this is medium sweet, and it's got 9.5% alcohol. So let's have a look at this, shall we? Colour-wise, you've got a pale yellow with greenish hints. Aromas. The aromas are quite a sort of a pungent but rich, waxy lime note. So there's a riper lime attitude there, maybe something richer heading towards more a quince sort of aroma. But it's got a nice intensity. So let's taste it. On the palate, there's a sweetness at the front of the tongue, and really racy acidity as well. Sort of mouth-watering, minerally acidity. On the middle of the palate, actually, there's some slightly developed, almost sort of, very waxy lime, just with the slightest hint of petrol development on it, which would be typical for a Riesling. Relatively light-bodied, and the sweetness is very clean. And the thing about stopping the fermentation is that leaves a lovely clean sweetness. There are two ways of sweetening a wine like this. One would be to stop the fermentation. The other would be to back blend in some concentrated grape juice, and that tends to give more of a sugary, syrupy style to it. This is a lovely, clean, fresh sweetness that allows the delicate perfumes on the finish. Here there's a lime and perhaps a lime blossom note at the end of this wine. And of course, with only 9.5% alcohol, that's not interfering at all with the fruit on the palate. It's not really adding that much weight. It's still quite light-bodied, although there's a nice concentration of limey fruit in here that is lasting really quite well. So yes, this is a wine that is already a few years old, isn't particularly showing any obvious signs of development, except perhaps that I mentioned a slight petrol-y note in terms of development, waxy note probably more likely, but possibly with quite a long future ahead of it. But really lovely drink. If you like something with a little bit of sweetness in it, I said it's got 50 grams of sugar, but actually it doesn't seem that sweet, because the balance with the lovely fresh crisp acidity is toning that back really nicely. So yes, Felton Road, Bannockburn Riesling 2019. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed it, do join us again. Bye now.